welcome to another beautiful day in the neighborhood. This series was created to highlight different creators, members, and commenters of the community. A community that first grew out from the Amico disaster, but since then has grown to include different creators from different communities. And this is just a blog giving my thoughts as I take a stroll around the neighborhood. Persephone recently asked in one of her videos, "What is the Amico?" And I responded, the Amico was a $17 million crowd-funded scam for the Intellivision Amico, a retro-style console that never came out. But through it, a community was formed, both for it and against it. And this community has included people from different walks of life, with strong opinions. A community of creators clashing with videos of self-expression. It's a community full of misfits, and at times it's known to be toxic. Nobody in this community has clean hands. Again, nobody in this community has clean hands. Not you, not me. In this stroll across the community, I'm gonna go visit CPE's house in hopes that she'll understand where I'm coming from. And for those of you thinking why CPE, she recently reached out to me and asked why would I defend Persephone, a total stranger. Yet when she was being attacked by the Herbie Derbies, I didn't come to her defense. The hater community is wide, but there was one fracture that spawned two groups, the Dean Queens and the Herbie Derbies. The Dean Queens was headed by Dean TV, Albo Army, and D-Reed, whereas the Herbie Derbies was headed by Evil Streams, who is now Drunk E-Cheese, and Tommy Oyamiko, who is now Cueya. Some of the community members chose sides and only watched the streams of either the Herbie Derbies or the Dean Queens, and at times they would go into the other people's streams to troll. Other people in the community, such as myself, didn't choose sides. We would go to any stream we wanted to and continue to have the fun that we did. But it wasn't until we were forced to choose sides. See, the initial split happened when Dean TV shunned the evil streams, didn't want to hang out with him, and didn't want him hanging out on his streams. Now, I don't remember the details why. I'm sure someone in the community will enlighten us. But soon after, that's when Cueya started waging a bit of a war against Dean TV, trying to expose him for all the stuff that he does within the shadows. When it came to my decision, I didn't really have a choice, and the same with others. Initially, I was asked to go hang out with the Dean Queens. In fact, they sent Leo DS to come ask me. And of course I said yes, why wouldn't I? They were my friends at the time. I was told by D-Reed that he didn't want me in his streams anymore, even though he didn't really have anything against me. In fact, he said he's still gonna watch my content. But because I would watch evil streams and hang out with the Herbie Derbies, I wasn't allowed to be associated with the Dean Queens anymore. And honestly, that was fine by me. I'd rather hang out where I'm wanted than where I'm not. Plus, I have no problem with the Herbie Derbies, never have. Maybe because I understood what the Herbie Derbies were. See, the reason why there was a split was because supposedly the Herbie Derbies aren't real. They play too much. They like to create alt accounts. They like to troll. They like to create mayhem. Not all the time, but yeah, that's where they get their kicks at times. And that was just too much for some people, part of the Dean Queens, even though some of them engage in the same behavior. Still, there was a split, and soon after, the war started. When it comes to UCP, I'm making this video instead of just sending you a message, a voice message, or typing it, because I want to show you that your concerns, your hurt, your feelings do mean something to me. And I'd rather put in the work to show you. But I'm going to be brutally honest. And unfortunately, it might hurt your feelings. You knew what this community was from the get-go. It's full of bastards and sons of bitches. It's not for the faint and it's not for the weak. The casualties along the way is a stark reminder of that. And if I remember correctly, just like me, At first, you didn't choose sides either. You were still hanging out with the Dean Queens and the Herbie Derbies. It wasn't until you had a falling out with, I believe, Albo, and then soon the rest of the Dean Queens, that made you turn to the Herbie Derbies. I remember Albo, the person that you're hanging with right now, calling you unimaginable things, simply because you are a woman. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. Like the way he does with pretty much everybody. And I remember Dean TV, another person that you're hanging with now, using the picture that you doxed of yourself during one of your streams, and also engaging in similar behavior as Albo. And as a show of solidarity, I did feature your artistic expressions of your hurt on my videos, your songs. And they were a huge part of my video and still are, until of course you stopped making them.
Louis Pereira, Mama come on, he had to go home. Pereira, me say Pereira. Mama come on, he had to go home. Stream all night on a drink of rum. Mama come on, he had to go home.
Now, the next part is very important and explains why I didn't come to your defense when you were fighting with the Herbie Derbies, specifically Evil and Cueya. And I already tried to tell you this in a message, but I guess I gotta go into a little bit more detail. Now, up to this point, it was about 1 year since my kidney transplant failed. And understandably, my treatment took a lot of my attention. But it wasn't until about maybe 10 months ago when I fully disengaged from the community. Having to work full-time in a high-stress environment while attending dialysis treatment 3 times a week, at the same time stressing about medical bills plus just life stresses that come with living, really started to take a toll on me. In some of the videos you can actually see it in my face. I mean, I look uglier like a beat up mitt, even worse than I do now. And with all that on my plate, to even think to still be involved in the community that we have is laughable because of how toxic it is and detrimental to your mental health. And it was during this time that living the way that I was became too overwhelming. So I decided to quit my job, file for disability, and concentrate solely on my health. Not having to go to work did release some stress, but at the same time brought on other stress, the stress of not having any income coming in. The thing is, when you file for disability, it takes about 260 something days in California for it to be reviewed. And then they'll have a decision for you within a few other weeks. So it takes about almost 300 days. And at that time, you get no income. So if you don't have any savings, then you're pretty much screwed. So you're definitely gonna need help if you don't have rich parents or something, which I don't. So I had already downsized from living in my apartment to a bedroom in family's house. I had a bit of a savings that I used for rent and to continue paying my bills. But it wasn't enough to keep me going for 10 months without income. And eventually, I did run out of money. 5 months in, I had to stop paying my credit card, which were full of medical bills. And instead, I started focusing on the main essentials that couldn't go on without being paid, like my insurance premiums that pretty much pay for my treatment, that keep me alive. Same with my prescriptions premiums and my prescriptions co-pays. The same goes for my phone, and the same goes for my car because I need to get to the treatment center, and so on. And about 3 months ago, I ran out of money completely, and I had asked a few relatives for a loan to get me through the months. And during this time, that's when Frog Tony reached out to me with the job of making videos for his channel, which ended up helping me a lot. It helped me get through one of the toughest times in my life. And for that, I'll forever be thankful. So I hope, CPE, that you can understand that most of my attention was focused on my personal life. And even though I was still making videos, it was mostly about video games, except for the ones that I was making for Tony's, which dealt with the grifters. So I wasn't really focused on what was going on in the community. And it was during this time, while I was dealing with my own personal issues, that you started having issues with the Herbie Derbies. And again, from the outside looking in, from someone who wasn't really paying too much attention, only watching a few streams here and there, the following is what I saw happen from my perspective. It may differ from yours because you lived it. It may differ from others because they were there when I wasn't. But I hope it further explains why, even more, I didn't come into your defense. The relationship between you and Evil Streams became more than just amigos. It became a relationship that was in the romantic nature. Something that was really none of my business, so I didn't really pay too much attention. But you can tell the way that Evil Streams would romanticize you with his love language at times. Now eventually that romance fizzled out, but you guys still remain Herbie Derbies. But slowly but surely, it started to fracture. To me, it looked like CPE wanted to have a certain control of the narrative, where Evil Streams and Tommy Amico wanted to go at a different direction. They wanted to keep on being Herbie Derbies, whereas CPE started to bring in more serious subjects and wanted to talk about some of the problems in the community, the backstabbing, but mostly had to do with her. So pretty much centering their narrative around her problems. I think in hopes to try to bring the community together, but I don't know. But that's something that the Herbie Derbies weren't interested in anymore. And something definitely that the Dean Queens weren't interested in anymore. Now, the fight between you and Evil Creams looked, to me, like it was a lover's squabble. So why would I get in the middle of that? It's just something that turned ugly, like most breakups do. And the fight between you and Tommy, or Cueya, seemed to be an extension of that. And expected, as he's pretty much Evil's main man. And as I recall, you were holding your own, going blow to blow. But during no time, during my limited time of watching, did I ever see Cueya attack you simply because you were a woman. Not the same way that Albert did, and occasionally still does. And recently someone asked me why I didn't speak out when Evil Creams and Ricardo Cody were saying racial things about Dean TV and his son. And the same reason applies. I didn't see it. I wasn't here. But then again, Dean TV himself has accused me of being racist, so I'm not sure if I could take him at his word. Furthermore, during this time that I've been away and I've been dealing with my illness, both Dean TV and Albert have been sending me messages wishing me ill will when it comes to my health, with Albert constantly making videos making fun of my kidney situation and the side effects it sometimes causes. Now obviously making fun of somebody's medical condition is vile, but I just chalked it up to a lack of imagination of their insults, and just chalked it up to being part of the game. So I paid it no mind. I didn't ask anybody out there to come to my defense. Because even though I do have kidney transplant failure, and if I don't get treatment for it, I will perish, and it's something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life, which most likely won't end well. But even so, I never consider myself a victim. It was definitely unfortunate, and it did hurt, but it brought a brand new appreciation to life, and it helped me realize how fortunate we are for the time that is given to us.
In your room, where every night is the same, you try to get solace from games. You keep pushing back the shame, and you wait for the flame. Over there is a person you wrapped around with all your lies. Over Over there is a friend you betrayed to get help from the guys. Over there, all the respect that you ever built has all died.
Which now brings me to about a month ago, a little over a month ago. And that's when my disability was finally approved and I am disabled. And with that comes a monthly allowance, a benefit that I earned through working my whole life, paying taxes, that allows me to continue to pay my bills. And at the same time, continue to concentrate solely on my health without the stress of having to go to work while going to treatment, which has been a huge stress relief. And the only reason why I eventually started engaging again with the community. As a matter of fact, it was only a few weeks ago when P.O. Box called me out on one of Drunken Cheese's streams. And I just happened to be lurking in the shadows. And ever since then, I've been engaging whenever I see them online, and I happen to be online as well. So in that sense, I guess you can say I'm back. And that pretty much coincides with the first message I sent you on Discord recently, CPE, where I explained to you the reason why I didn't come to your defense in the first place. And when it comes to everybody in the Herby Derby community being turned against you because of Cueya, as you claim, while I was gone, many people that I didn't even know joined the community. So every time I would check in, I would see brand new names. Like I didn't know who Ron Ramon was. I didn't know who Victor Vega was. I didn't know who Red Bull was. So it was nearly impossible to keep track of them and who they align with, given that they're just commenters. So essentially, that's why I didn't come to your defense when you felt you were being attacked by the Herby Derbies. I was dealing with my own personal health issues, so I didn't see most of what was going on. And not only that, I didn't even know half the players. And to be quite frank, that's just the community that we're involved in. People are gonna break up, there's gonna be fractures, and we can't expect people to keep choosing sides and come to our defense each time we feel we're being attacked. Because after all, that's just the nature of our community. And the only way to not be a victim is to not be involved. Just like those that have left the community and moved out from the neighborhood, we all have a choice. Which now leads me to the last couple of weeks. You're now aligned with the Dean Queens. You're still fighting with the Herby Derbies, even though you have seemed to have a little community formed for yourself. You recently had Ricardo Cody on your stream to talk about the many instances where you feel he did you wrong. And to be quite honest, from the outside looking in, it looks like all you're doing is really berating him. Berating him in front of the Dean Queens. Constantly letting him be insulted in the stream. And in return, not really letting him defend himself. You get too emotional and don't let him speak. And pretty much after each sentence, you want to disprove something that he said. Which isn't productive if you wish to have other people on your streams to work out any other problems that you have within the community. And the reason why I came to Persephone's defense recently was because I was already involved. My first video was about her accusations against Gen X Gamer, and me asking the question why he wasn't covering Carl's job racist statements. And then when I saw his behavior towards Persephone, that's something that I just couldn't stand by and watch. So I made the follow-up video, calling him out for his bigotry behavior. To be clear, I didn't call him out for his politics. Someone being transsexual isn't politics to me. I called him out for his inhumanity, for treating her subhuman. The same thing that I would do to a real friend if it happened to me in real life. Now, I already said my piece, and I have no intention of going further. Now, when it comes to the Dean Queens and the Herby Derbies, there's no going back. The damages that have been done are irreparable. So if we choose to stay in the community, we choose not only all the good times and connections that we built, but also all the heartache and heartbreak that comes with it. That's gonna do it for this episode of The Neighborhood. Remember, always be kind to yourself and enjoy your life. And I'll meet you right there. Peace.